Good morning, everyone. We are the Group 6 and we're going to discuss the ethical considerations in education. Ethical issues in education are a topic of which everyone within the sector should be aware. And ethical practices can have serious consequences for students, educators, and the whole educational institution, and educators can face ethical dilemmas daily. Professional ethics and standards are very crucial in education because they align with statutory requirements and ensure compliance. They help educators foster trust with students, parents, and colleagues as their adherence to ethical principles demonstrates integrity and reliability. They also ensure fairness, provide equal opportunities, and avoid bias, all of which contribute to a positive and inclusive learning environment. If educators follow ethical guidelines and standards, it contributes to their personal and professional growth, and it encourages as well continuous improvement. It can help them develop their teaching practices and skills, enhancing student success and overall outcomes. It also sets a good example to students and hopefully instills the same values to help them in the future. We will start the report on the definition and the importance of ethics as a principle of right conduct in education. So ethics in education refers to the set of moral principles and values that guide behavior and decision making within the educational context. It's about establishing and upholding standards of right conduct for everyone that is involved in an educational institution. Examples are students, teachers, administrators, and institutions. In our report, we're going to focus more on the side of the educators. So educators should maintain high standards of ethics and behaviors in and even outside educational setting. They have ethical responsibilities in promoting integrity, professionalism, and respect. As I mentioned earlier, ethical considerations promote integrity, professionalism, and respect. These are actually the role of ethical standards. It fosters integrity, professionalism, and respect. So ethical standards plays a crucial role in fostering integrity, professionalism, and respect within the educational system here in the Philippines. We're going to talk first about fostering integrity. Ethical standards such as honesty in academic work, as well as the transparency in institutional operations, combat issues like cheating, plagiarism, and corruption. They instill a culture of truthfulness and academic honesty. Second is in the promotion of professionalism. Ethical codes for educators, for example, the Code of Ethics for professional teachers, outline expected behaviors, responsibilities, and boundaries. This ensures the educators to maintain high standards of conduct, maintain confidentiality, and avoid conflicts of interest, fostering a professional environment. And the third role of ethical standards is the cultivation of respect. Ethical standards emphasize valuing diversity, promoting fairness, and treating all individuals with dignity. This helps to eliminate discrimination, bullying, and other forms of disrespect, creating a safe and inclusive learning environment where everyone feels valued. It's actually the 1987 Constitution, specifically Article 14, Section 3, Paragraph 2, that mandates the inclusion of ethics and values education. According to 1987 Constitution, Article 14, Section 3, Paragraph 2, they shall inculcate patriotism and nationalism, foster love of humanity, respect for human rights, appreciation of the role of national heroes and historical development of the country, teach the rights and duties of citizenship, strengthen ethical and spiritual values, develop moral character and personal discipline, encourage critical and creative thinking, broaden scientific and technological knowledge, and promote vocational efficiency. This is the legal framework of the discussions that we're going to have furthermore. Professional regulation and ethics are fundamental pillars that uphold the integrity, accountability, and quality of teaching. They establish standards of conduct, competence, and responsibility expected of educators to ensure a safe, respectful, and effective learning environment. By adhering to ethical principles as well as the regulatory guidelines, teachers not only demonstrate their commitment to their profession, but it also fosters trust and confidence among students, parents, as well as the community. So understanding these principles is essential for maintaining professionalism and promoting continuous growth within the teaching practice. We will start our discussion on the Republic Act 7836, which is also known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. This establishes a framework for regulating and professionalizing the teaching profession in our country here in the Philippines. This Republic Act features key provisions that includes mandating licensure examinations, establishing the Board for Professional Teachers, and outlining penalties for unauthorized practice. So the law creates what we call the Board for Professional Teachers, or BPT, which is a regulatory body under the supervision of the Professional Regulation Commission, or PRC, to oversee the teaching profession, which includes conducting licensure examinations and promoting teacher professionalization. All teachers, including those in elementary and secondary schools, are actually required to pass a licensure exam and obtain a valid certificate and license from the PRC before practicing teaching. Successful examinees must register with the PRC, and then they may now obtain a professional license to practice teaching legally. The BPT is actually responsible for prescribing ethical standards and rules of conduct for teachers. So this law, other than that, it also outlines penalties for those practicing without a valid license, which includes fines and imprisonment as well. There is also a grace period that was initially provided for existing teachers to comply with the new registration requirements, and with the 2-year period specified in some interpretations of the law. So the Act specifies the qualifications for teachers and members of the Board for Professional Teachers, and it also establishes incentives for teachers who excel in merit-based evaluations. Other than that, one of the most important key provisions of this law is emphasizing the importance of ongoing professional development for teachers, and we're going to discuss that later on. Next is the professionalization of teaching here in our country. This is a process that aims to elevate the teaching profession by establishing standards for qualifications, licensing, and professional development. This is achieved through laws and policies that recognize teaching as a profession and regulate the practice of teaching. For example, is the Presidential Decree 1006, and as well as the Republic Act 7836 that was discussed earlier. So these laws ensure that teachers are properly trained and qualified to deliver quality education. So the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994, which is the RA 7836 that I discussed earlier, it establishes the Board for Professional Teachers in order to regulate the licensure examination and promote the professionalization of the teaching profession. All individuals that is engaged in teaching, as well as supervision or administration in public or private elementary and secondary schools, must actually pass the licensure examination for teachers. So the Philippine Professional Standards for Teacher, or also known as PSST, provides a framework for assessing teacher competencies. The laws, like for example, what we've discussed earlier, the Republic Act 7836, aims actually to improve the social and economic status of teachers. Just like I've said earlier, there are also incentives. They do incentives to pursue teaching as a career. So another is the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics for professional teachers is in place in order to guide teachers in their professional conduct and interactions with the students and colleagues. And other than that, additional to it is a 4-year bachelor's degree actually is the standard credential for teachers, with specialization in either elementary education or secondary education. And teachers are also encouraged to pursue continuous learning and development that is through various professional development programs and activities, and that includes continuing professional education. The Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers, issued by the Professional Regulation Commissioner, the PRC, through Resolution number 435 series of 1997, outlines the ethical and moral standards for teachers in the Philippines. This code applies to all teachers in schools, emphasizing their duty to uphold dignity, high moral values, and professional competence. It addresses teachers' responsibilities to the state, community, profession, and students, including their commitment to quality education, professional development, and maintaining high standards. So the Code of Ethics actually applies to all teachers in the Philippines, promoting quality education and upholding the standards of the teaching profession. The teachers must prioritize the interest and welfare of the learners, handling them justly and impartially, and avoiding prejudice or discrimination. Teachers are also expected to be role models, actively contributing to the improvement of the community. How? Well, actually through moral, social, and civic initiatives. Teachers must also continuously strive for professional growth, participate in professional development activities, and uphold high ethical standards within the profession. Teachers also should maintain professionalism, confidentiality, and respect among colleagues, supporting each other in professional matters. Teachers also should respect and uphold the authority of the school administrators and other higher authorities in the educational system. Teachers also should collaborate effectively with other school personnel to create a positive and supportive learning environment. Teachers are expected to maintain a high standard of conduct both in and out of the classroom to uphold the dignity and reputation of the profession. And teachers should maintain objectivity, fairness, and impartiality in their interactions with students, parents, and colleagues. Teachers should also not engage in any activity that can actually compromise the professional judgment or create a conflict of interest. And finally, teachers should maintain confidentiality regarding student records and other sensitive information. Lastly, on my part is the discussion about continuing professional development. So Republic Act number 10912, which is also known as what I said earlier, Continuing Professional Development, or CPD Act of 2016, mandates CPD as a mandatory requirement for renewing professional identification cards, or PICs, of all registered and licensed professionals under the regulation of the Professional Regulation Commission, or PRC. This law aims to enhance the competence and professional development of individuals in various fields by requiring them to continuously update their knowledge and skills. Some of the key points of the law is that, first, of course, the mandatory requirement of the CPD in renewing, because it ensures professionals to stay current with industry advancements as well as the best practices in their field. The law also promotes professional development by encouraging continuous learning and skill enhancement, ultimately leading to improved professional competence. The Act also aims to align professional practice with national and international standards that ensures professionals being well equipped to contribute to the nation's economic growth and as well as the welfare. There is what we call the CPD Council, or the Continuing Professional Development Council. The law established it to oversee the implementation and enforcement of the CPD program, which includes the accreditation of CPD providers and programs. The CPD Act establishes an accreditation system for CPD providers and programs that ensures the standards and requirements set by the CPD Council. So the CPD Act was fully implemented in March 15, 2017, following the issuance of PRC Resolution number 149 series of 2016. Well, now I'm going to discuss to you the different benefits of the CPD Act. Of course, first, it ensures the professionals to stay up to date, just like what I said earlier, about the latest advancements and best practices in the field. And apparently, that will lead also to improved quality of service and outcomes. And other than that, it can also contribute to the career development of the professional, financial income because of the promotion that they may get after it, and as well as the networking opportunities. By improving the competence and skills of professionals, the CPD Act contributes to the overall economic growth and development of the nation. As of today, teachers need 15 continuing professional development units to renew their licenses with the PRC. This is actually a reduced requirement because the original or the standard units is 45 units. However, because of the some pandemic related adjustments, the requirement was reduced. So professionals can earn CPD units through formal, non-formal, and volunteer learning activities. That's all for my report. I am Sherlaine Banaag. We're now going to have the next discussion for chapter 3. Thank you.
I am Roxanne Bangasan and I will be discussing first the provisions on proselytizing. First is Article 2, Section 5 of the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers, which states that a teacher shall not engage in the promotion of any political, religious, or other partisan interests and shall not directly or indirectly solicit, require, collect, or receive any money or service or other valuable material from any person or entity for such purposes. So here, it ensures teachers stay objective and focus on academic content, not personal beliefs, allowing students to form their own opinions. By promoting inclusivity and respecting diverse backgrounds, teachers create a safe, unbiased environment that values each student and supports critical thinking and individuality. Next is the legal basis, which is Article 3, Section 5 of the 1987 Constitution, which states that no law shall be made respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The free exercise and enjoyment of religious profession and worship without discrimination or preference shall forever be allowed. No religious test shall be required for the exercise of civil or political rights. So here, it protects religious freedom by ensuring schools, especially public ones, stay neutral and do not promote any religion. Students cannot be enforced to join religious activities and are free to practice their beliefs without discrimination. So this creates an inclusive and respectful learning environment where all students can thrive regardless of their faith. Next is the ethical principle, which states that teacher must respect students' diverse beliefs and ensure an inclusive learning environment free from undue influence. So here, it means that teacher must respect students' religious, cultural, and personal differences, avoiding the imposition of their own beliefs. It creates a safe, objective classroom where all students feel valued. This principle supports academic freedom and critical thinking, allowing students to think independently. It ensures equality and justice, affirming teachers as impartial guides, promoting a respectful learning environment where every student can thrive. So the next topic that I will be discussing is the responsibilities of teachers under the Code of Ethics to the state, which is to uphold constitutional principles and public policies in their professional conduct, support educational initiatives that align with national development goals and promote patriotism, and avoid partisan political activities. So here, the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers highlights teachers' duty to uphold national values and constitutional ideals, promoting democratic principles in the classroom. Teachers are expected to contribute to national development and promote nationalism, helping students to become responsible, civic-minded citizens. Additionally, teachers must avoid partisan political activities to maintain professionalism and neutrality, ensuring the classroom remains focused on education, not politics. So these responsibilities shape the teacher's role in building both academic knowledge and national identity. Next is the responsibilities of teachers to the learners under the Code of Ethics, which is to provide equitable learning opportunities for all students and protect individuals from discrimination, abuse, and exploitation. So, to the Professional Teachers Code of Ethics outlines key duties towards students to ensure a just and safe learning environment. Teachers must provide equal opportunities for learning by adapting their teaching to meet the diverse needs of all students, ensuring everyone has a fair chance to succeed regardless of background or ability. Teachers are also responsible for protecting students from discriminations, abuse, and exploitation, promoting a safe, respectful learning space. They must take action to prevent both physical and emotional harm, including verbal abuse, and ensure students are never exploited. So these responsibilities emphasize the teacher's roles in creating a supportive and nurturing environment where students can thrive academically and personally. Next is the responsibilities of teachers in the profession, which is to maintain professional competence and moral integrity and avoid unethical practices such as plagiarism and conflict of interest. So the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers outline key responsibilities focusing on competence, integrity, and ethical conduct. Teachers must continuously improve their skills and knowledge to remain effective in the classroom. They must also model moral integrity, behaving ethically, and serving as role models for both students and colleagues. Teachers are required to avoid unethical practices like plagiarism and conflicts of interest. They must ensure their work is original, properly referenced, and free from any situation that could compromise their professional judgment. These duties help maintain the integrity of the teaching profession, ensuring that teachers act honestly and promotes a respectful, credible learning environment. Lastly is the responsibility of teachers to the community under the Code of Ethics, which is to collaborate with parents and stakeholders to promote social responsibility and respect for diversity. So the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers emphasizes the importance of teachers collaborating with parents and stakeholders to support students' development and promote social responsibility and respect for diversity. By working alongside families and community members, teachers establish a strong support system that addresses both academic and personal needs of students. Teachers are also responsible for promoting social responsibility by helping students become active, responsible citizens who contribute positively to society. Additionally, teachers must cultivate respect for diversity, encouraging students to appreciate various cultural practices and worldviews and preparing them for life in multicultural world. These responsibilities ultimately help students develop strong moral principles, a sense of responsibility, and tolerance for diversity, which benefit both individuals and society at large. The last topic that I will be discussing is the ethical issues in academic dishonesty. First is plagiarism, which is defined as using another's work without proper attribution, claiming it as one's own. So plagiarism is an ethical issue in academe involving the stealing of someone else's work or ideas without proper attribution. It undermines intellectual property rights and disregards academic principles like honesty, integrity, and fairness. Plagiarism hinders students' development of research and critical thinking skills as they don't learn how to engage with content properly or cite sources. It also distorts the merit-based learning system. To avoid plagiarism, it's essential to teach students proper citation practices and promote a culture of academic honesty and accountability. Next is the copyright infringement, which is regarding the violation of the exclusive rights of the copyright owner under RAA 293 or the Intellectual Property Code. So copyright infringement in education occurs when teachers, students, or schools use copyrighted materials without proper authorization, such as copying textbook or sharing videos and images. So RA number 8293 or the Intellectual Property Code protects creators' exclusive rights. Schools should educate teachers and students on fair use guidelines to ensure compliance with copyright laws. Respecting intellectual property promotes ethical practices and prevents legal issues like fines and reputational damages. So here's the table comparing plagiarism and copyright infringement. So plagiarism and copyright infringement differs in several key ways. So plagiarism is an ethical offense where the misrepresentation of authorship occurs without necessarily violating copyright ownership. It typically results in academic sanctions like failing grades. On the other hand, copyright infringement is a legal offense requiring the violation of copyright holders' rights and can lead to civil and criminal penalties such as fines or imprisonment. Plagiarism is common in academic and research settings, whereas copyright infringement is more prevalent in educational, commercial, and creative fields. Plagiarism is governed by academic institutions and ethical codes, while copyright infringement is regulated by intellectual property laws such as RA 8293. So both plagiarism and copyright infringement are academic issues, but they differ in nature and severity. So plagiarism is a moral violation where someone takes another person's work and presents it as their own, often resulting in academic consequences like failing grades or penalties. It does not necessarily involve legal violation. In contrast, copyright infringement is a legal offense where copyrighted materials is used without authorization, violating the copyright holder's rights. So this can result in civil or criminal penalties including fines or imprisonments. While plagiarism undermines academic honesty, copyright infringement breaches legal protections. Both highlight the importance of respecting original work and intellectual property. The last topic that I will be discussing is the doctrine of fair use, or Section 184 of RA 8293, and an example of this is the quotation for teaching purposes used for criticism, comment, news reporting, and similar educational purposes. So here, it allows the use of copyrighted materials without permission for educational purposes such as instruction, commentary, criticism, and news reporting. It permits students and instructors to use brief quotations from books, articles, or media as long as the usage is non-commercial and properly credited. So this doctrine balances access to information with the protection of intellectual property rights.
Hello, I'm Gizella Kym Tagulob. I'll be reporting the ethical considerations in education, chapter 6 and 7. Chapter 6, corruption and bribery and solicitation. So the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers provides that in Section 4, a teacher shall not accept favors or gifts from learners, their parents, or others on their behalf in exchange for requested concessions, especially if undeserved. Section 5, the teacher shall not accept or directly, indirectly, any remuneration from tutorials other than what is authorized for such service. So, the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers is also connected with the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, which is RA 3019. So, um, Section 12, termination of office, no public officer shall be allowed to resign or retire pending investigation, criminal or administrative, or pending a prosecution against him for any offense under this act under the provisions of the revised penal code on bribery. Its significance reinforces the accountability by prohibiting officers public officials from resigning or retiring under investigation or prosecution for corruption or bribery offenses. So it reiterates and expands on the strict prohibition for all public officials and employees against soliciting, accepting gifts, gratuities, favors, or anything of monetary value in connection with their official duties or any transaction affected by the function. So it underscores the government's commitment to prevent conflicts of interest when maintaining public trust. The RA 6713 also mandates impartiality and prohibits soliciting gifts and favors. So this reiterates the uh, previous slides with, that prohibits the um, bribery and accepting gifts by doctors. So, ethical responsibility is stated in Republic Act 6713. It is the policy of the state to promote a high standard of ethics in public service. Public officials, employees shall at all times be accountable to the people and shall discharge their duties with utmost responsibility, integrity, competence, and loyalty. active patriotism and justice, lead more business, and uphold public interest over personal interest. So, this presents the foundational policy of the state to promote a high standard of ethics in public service. So, it includes accountability, responsibility, integrity, competence, loyalty, modest giving, and upholding public interest over personal interest. So it mandates impartiality and prohibits soliciting gifts or favors. In chapter 7, teacher misconduct and immorality. So can teachers be disciplined for immorality? So the answer is yes. Teachers are held accountable for their actions, even in their personal lives, if they undermine professional integrity or public trust. So there are several offenses that also um, highlighted in the DO 49 series of 2006, which are grave misconduct, gross neglect, duty, disgraceful or immoral conduct, conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service, and light offenses. So several examples of each of the offenses that can be committed by a teacher. Number 6713 highlights the norms of conduct of public officials and employees. So, A, commitment to public interest, B, professionalism, C, justness and sincerity, D, public, D, political neutrality, responsiveness to the public, F, nationalism and patriotism, simple living, and B, the Civil Service Commission shall adopt positive measures to promote observance of the standards, including dissemination of information programs and workshops authorizing merit increase beyond regular progression steps to a limited number of employees recognized by their office colleagues to be outstanding in their observance of ethical standards and to continuing research and experimentation on measures which provide motivation to public officials and employees in raising the general level of observance of these standards. University of the Philippines versus CA. So, private respondent, Roxanne William Margaret Celine is a doctoral student of the University of the Philippines who submitted her dissertation and defended it. So before the defense, the panel member Dr. Medina raised concern that the portions of the dissertation were lifted from a published source without proper acknowledgement. So despite these concerns, private respondent was allowed to defend, and most panelists gave dissertation submission. So private respondent here submitted her dissertation without the required approvals of some of the panelists who noted the issues. So in April, University Council approved her graduation. In April 22, the Board of Regents also approved the graduation list, including her name. So she formally graduated with PhD degree. However, concerns about plagiarism persisted. So in May 1, 1993, a formal charge of plagiarism was filed, recommending degree withdrawal. So the committee Ventura was formed and reported finding at least 90 instances of listing without proper acknowledgement. So the CSSP College Assembly, the University Council, unanimously approved the recommendation to withdraw the degree and endorse it to the BFR. So the BOR here deferred the action, and the private respondent argued that the decree could not be withdrawn after acceptance and sought for investigation. So the BOR released her transcript showing she passed, but later constituted a special committee in Zaparela, which also recommended the decree withdrawal. So they found overwhelming evidence of massive lifting, at least 22 confirmed ones verifying the previous 90 instances of plagiarism and noting her admission of 15 portions. So the BOR formally decided the majority vote to withdraw her PhD degree on November 17, 1994. So private respondent filed a petition for mandamus with the RTC, and the RTC dismissed the petition, citing academic freedom The CA versus RTC is ordering the restoration of the degree. So whether your university power to recall a degree for graduation is a lack of due process for the graduates. So it was held no because the Supreme Court ruled that the CA urged the petition for mandamus should be dismissed. So the court held that the mandamus was not a proper remedy. So decision to withdraw degree involves university discretion, academic freedom, not a ministerial duty. So the private respondent was not denied due process as she was informed of the degree, given the opportunity to respond, including a written explanation in meetings. And our arguments were considered. So the trial type proceedings for an audience before the BOR were not required. So the court affirmed that the university has the right and power to withdraw an academic degree things to fraud, even after it was conferred as an exercise of academic freedom and self-defense. So this power is vested in the Board of Regents. So action was based on extensive investigations with the Ventura and Sacarala committee, which found an overwhelming evidence of plagiarism. The court also rejected the argument that the only student disciplinary tribunal had jurisdiction, clarifying that degree withdrawal for fraud is distinct from disciplinary sanction. So the decision of the Court of Appeals were reversed and the private respondent's petition for mandamus was dismissed. So this case only reiterates the university's action was well-founded based on extensive investigation and overwhelming evidence of plagiarism. So the court here clarified that withdrawal of degree for fraud is distinct disciplinary sanction. It is not so court here the party view reverse the court of its decision. So this confirms the institution's authority to address academic fraud dispute. So that's it for my report.
Hi everyone, my name is Marlon, and now we move on to the next topic, which is academic plagiarism in research and publications. So, the penalties for academic plagiarism may involve revocation of awards or degrees for proven cases of plagiarism under institutional rules. While academic plagiarism is the act of passing off someone else's work as your own, meaning you did not even recognize the original creator of such work. Why is plagiarism considered such a serious issue? Well, simply put, academic plagiarism is a type of theft. Para siyang pagnanakaw, like stealing money or valuables. While plagiarism is not a crime, it is wrong regardless of whether or not it is committed on purpose. Well, the school having academic freedom may impose through their school policies, rules, and regulations any penalties to students who are found guilty of the act of plagiarism. In fact, in the majority of cases, it is a serious offense that can be worthy of expulsion or suspension from the academic institution. Even people who perform notable work later in their careers frequently suffer professional consequences if they are caught having committed plagiarism earlier in their lives. This is a research made by Enaco. What are the relevant laws which penalizes acts of academic plagiarism? Well, one of the relevant laws we can use would be the Republic Act 8293, also known as Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. This law protects original works from unauthorized reproduction. Although plagiarism is not specifically or directly criminalized in the Philippines, relevant laws have been implemented to protect the rights of the owner or the creator of the materials that have become a subject of plagiarism. Republic Act 8293, or also known as Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines, provides in Section 216 the remedies for infringement. It enumerates the following remedies. So, one is to an injunction restraining the infringement. And then the second would be the payment of damages and any profits which may have earned by the infringer due to the act of infringement. The third would be delivery of the infringed products or destruction without compensation. And then the fourth would be claim any other damages as may be granted by the court, including moral and exemplary. On the other hand, RA or Republic Act 8293 also provides under Section 217 the criminal liabilities or penalties that can be imposed to the infringer if found guilty. The same includes imprisonment of 1 to 9 years and a fine of 50,000 to 1 million depending on the gravity of the offense. Well, these are the reasons why it is important that we know the legal implications of plagiarism, especially in the academic setting. Now we are going to move on to the other important issue. This is counseling and boundaries in teacher student relationships. Well, counseling responsibilities, we all know that teachers can provide academic and personal guidance but must refer serious issues to licensed counselors. So, we are going to discuss that a bit later. Well, there are also boundaries. So to avoid undue influence or becoming overly involved in student private lives, that is the reason why there should be boundaries as well. Well, a teacher shall ensure that conditions contributive to the maximum development of learners are adequate and shall extend needed assistance in preventing or solving learners' problems and difficulties. This is provided for by Section 9, Article 8 of Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers. Pursuant to their oath or the above mentioned, teachers have the duties of ensuring that students are able to get the needed assistance, including counseling to secure maximum development. This entails providing adequate support not just on their academic performance, but also on matters that may affect such performance in school. Conducting counseling session with students will help them develop their sense of trust with their teachers, which will eventually boost their interest in learning. It will also help them address or resolve their personal issues that may increase their level of confidence. However, students may experience serious situation which may no longer be within the capacity of the teacher to resolve, such as mental health issues that requires professional help. Hence, the implementation of the Republic Act number 12080, or also known as Basic Education, Mental Health, and Well-being Promotion Act. That is my topic. Thank you so much.
Good day, everyone. I am Marfa Cecilia Onera. For my part, I'll be discussing the cases under ethical considerations in education. So to shorten the discussion, I limited the facts of the case as follows. So for the first case, in Santos versus NLRC, decided in 1998, the issue is, may a faculty member be dismissed on the grounds of immorality? For the facts, in the present case, Mr. Santos, who was a married man, was employed by the Hagonoy Institute School as a teacher. Likewise, Mrs. Martin, also a married teacher, is also in the same school. So during the course of their employment, they fell in love. Rumors then started spreading around the school. The issue arose as to whether their relationship could be considered immoral, thereby constituting a just cause for termination under Article 282 of the Labor Code. Moreover, Section 94 of the Manual of Regulations for Private Schools provides employment of school personnel, including faculty, may be terminated for disgraceful or immoral conduct. The ruling of the Supreme Court is yes, a faculty member may be dismissed on the grounds of immorality. Immorality is a conduct offensive to community morals and a bad example to the youth. The seriousness of Mr. Santos' conduct stems from his dual role as a married man and as a teacher. Extramarital affairs offend the sanctity of marriage. As a teacher, Mr. Santos serves in loco parentis to his students and is held to a high moral standard. Teachers, being vested with special parental authority, must display exemplary conduct at all times inside and outside the classroom.
For the second case, in Puse versus Santos Puse, decided in 2010, the issue is morality a continuing requirement for the employment of teachers? The facts are, Renevie Puse, a registered professional teacher, married Ligaya. They had 2 children. Ligaya later discovered that Rene had deceived her about his marital status and filed a criminal case for bigamy. Ligaya filed a letter complaint also with the director of the PRC Manila seeking assistance in the cases she filed. The Board of Professional Teachers found Rene administratively liable and revoked his license. The court's ruling is, yes, teachers must at all times be moral, honorable, and dignified. Teacher serves as an example to students during their formative years and stands in loco parentis to them. He must accept restrictions on his conduct that may be irksome to ordinary citizens because the personal behavior of teachers in and outside the classroom must be beyond reproach. The discovery of a teacher's bigamous marriage, for instance, causes damage to the teaching profession. Even if a teacher claims to have provided for his second family, this cannot cleanse the moral transgression. Immoral acts cannot be excused by subsequent remorse or good intentions. For the third case, in Luz versus St. Scholastica's College, West Grove, decided in 2015, the issue here is, may an employee of a Catholic school be terminated on the ground of pregnancy out of wedlock? The facts as, Cherry Luz, a non-teaching personnel, was employed by the college. She engaged in premarital sexual relations, became pregnant out of wedlock, and subsequently married the father of her child. The school dismissed her from employment on the ground of disgraceful and immoral conduct, relying on the 1992 Manual of Regulations for Private Schools. The court here held that no premarital sexual relations and pregnancy out of wedlock do not automatically equate to immorality without examining the totality of the circumstances. Further, the court clarified that public morality, not religious morality, is the applicable standard in legal proceedings involving employment rights. Here, it was undisputed that both respondent and the child's father were unmarried, unlike in the previous case. Therefore, she cannot be held administratively liable for disgraceful and immoral conduct. In the fourth case, in Pia versus Gervasio, decided in 2013, the issue here is, may a faculty member be dismissed for selling books to students? The facts are, Dr. Pia was caught directly selling a book titled Organization Development Research Papers to her students for 120 pesos per copy in violation of the Code of Professional Teachers. In her defense, she contended that students were not compelled to purchase the book, and she even presented certifications from students stating that they were not forced to buy. However, the court ruled that a teacher can be dismissed for selling books to students. Conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service includes acts that tarnish the image and integrity of public office. Applying this in the present case, the court emphasized that public officials and employees must always refrain from acts contrary to law or public policy. The court also upheld the finding against Pia, stressing her moral ascendancy over students. Here, she overpriced the book and implied that refusal to purchase could lead to failing the subject, showing how she allowed personal interests to interfere with her duties. So, the fifth case is entitled Buck Foundation versus NLRC, decided in 1990. The issue here is borrowing money considered immoral conduct? The facts are, Karimit was first employed by Buck Foundation as a school teacher and later as a caseworker assigned to wards. She borrowed money 2 times from the ward's mother and also borrowed various items from the foundation days before her wedding. She was then removed on grounds of serious misconduct and loss of trust and confidence. The court ruled that borrowing money per se is neither dishonest nor immoral nor illegal. However, the said act becomes a serious misconduct when reprehensible behavior such as the use of a trust relationship as leverage for borrowing money is involved. Borrowing from a ward's parent raises serious doubts on the employee's trustworthiness and constitutes serious misconduct. Moving forward with the fifth case, in Chihuahua versus Clave, decided in 1990, the issue here is, may a teacher be dismissed for having a romantic relationship with a student? The facts are, Evelyn Chua, a teacher at Taitung High School for 13 years, entered into a romantic relationship with her 16-year-old grade 6 student, Bobby Kwa. and legally married him in December 1975 under the old civil code. The school sought to dismiss her for immorality and violation of the teacher's code of ethics, which states that a school official or teacher should never take advantage of his or her position to court a pupil or student. The court here ruled that the school utterly failed to show that Evelyn took advantage of her position to court her student. If the two eventually fell in love despite the disparity in their ages and academic levels, this only lends substance to the truism that the heart has reasons of its own which reason does not know. But definitely yielding to this gentle and universal emotion is not to be so casually equated with immorality. However, if this were to be in the present time, let us consider RA 76110 or the law regarding child abuse. And now we are done with the last case. In Malta versus People decided in 2007, the issue here is a professor who had consensual sexual intercourse with a minor student liable for child abuse. The facts are Michael Malto, a professor at Assumption College, seduced his minor student, AAA, then 17 years old, after they had a mutual understanding and therefore became sweethearts. Under pressure and threats from Malto, AAA consented to multiple acts of sexual intercourse. AAA's mother discovered this. She filed a complaint leading to Malto's persecution under RA 7610 for exploiting his moral ascendancy over a minor. The court here ruled that yes, a professor who had sexual intercourse with a minor student is liable for sexual abuse. Under RA 7610, teachers have a special duty to protect their students from abuse and exploitation. The law explicitly prohibits sexual conduct between teachers and minors, as minors cannot legally consent to such acts. And even if they consent, it is invalid because children lack the maturity and understanding to give genuine consent. Teachers who abuse their positions of authority must face severe penalties to deter such misconduct. The law emphasizes that the child's welfare and best interests come first.